A gritty, engaging story of ambition and class warfare set in the world of Boston tech. Jack Sullivan, a scholarship graduate of MIT and the son of a Southie mechanic, is humiliated by the elite Winthrop family, whose daughter Penelope he loves. Driven by this challenge and rejection, Jack quits his safe job to bootstrap his revolutionary machine learning software company. CodeFlow. MIT scholar builds CodeFlow, rejects Boston's elite, and wins the girl. Chapter 1. The dinner from hell. I should have known I was screwed the moment Penelope's mother asked me to clarify what exactly my father did for a living, pronouncing father with the same tone one might use for intestinal parasite. He's a mechanic, I said, reaching for my water glass with the confident air of a man who doesn't yet realize he's been thrown to the wolves. Has his own shop in Southie. The silence that followed could have flash frozen a small tropical island. We were sitting in the Winthrop family dining room, and when I say dining room, I mean a space roughly the size of my entire childhood apartment, featuring a chandelier that probably cost more than my college education. The walls were lined with portraits of stern-looking people who appeared to have been born without the ability to smile, which, considering present company, seemed to be a hereditary condition. How industrious, Penelope's mother. Victoria Winthrop III, yes, the third, because apparently they'd been perfecting the Ice Queen formula for generations, finally said. She dabbed at her mouth with a napkin that probably had a higher thread count than my bedsheets. Penelope squeezed my hand under the table. At least, I thought it was supportive. In hindsight, it might have been a warning. Jack's being modest, she said, her Wellesley education evident in how smoothly she could navigate these treacherous waters. He's a senior software engineer at CodeFlow. He graduated summa cum laude from MIT. On a full scholarship, I added helpfully, because I'm an idiot who thought merit mattered to these people. Penelope's father, Preston Winthrop Jr., because of course, peered at me over his juice glass. MIT, fine institution. I assume you studied something practical, business administration perhaps? Computer science and mathematics, actually. With a minor in, how nice, he said it, the way one might acknowledge that someone had successfully tied their shoes. And what does one do with computer science? I blinked. Well, sir, I build software. Currently, I'm the lead engineer on... Preston, darling, Victoria interrupted, as if I'd simply stopped talking of my own accord. Did you hear that the Cabots are summering in Martha's Vineyard again this year? We simply must extend our stay in Nantucket to overlap with theirs. And just like that, I'd been dismissed, erased, Control-Alt-deleted from the conversation. Penelope's brother, Preston III, because difficult masculinity and unoriginality are apparently also hereditary, smirked at me from across the table. So Jack, what kind of car do you drive? This was a trap. I knew it was a trap, but like a lemming with a wishy ending, I walked right into it. I don't own a car, I bike mostly. Boston traffic is. You bike? Preston III said this with the same horror he might reserve for, you eat babies? It's environmentally conscious, Penelope interjected. It's poverty, her brother shot back. Preston, Penelope's father said sharply. Then, turning to me with what I suppose was meant to be a kind smile, but looked more like a shark sizing up a seal, he added, You'll understand, Jack, that we've always envisioned Penelope with someone of similar background. The Winthrops have been part of Boston society since 1630. We have certain standards. Certain expectations. I understand, sir, I said, mostly because I didn't trust myself to say what I was actually thinking. Do you? Victoria set down her juice glass with a crystalline clink that somehow sounded judgmental. Because from where I'm sitting, I see a young man who, while perhaps intelligent in his own technical way, lacks the breeding, the connections, the family name that would make him a suitable match for our daughter. The air left my lungs like I'd been gut-punched. Mother! Penelope stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. That's enough. Sit down, Penelope, her father commanded. We're simply being realistic. What does this boy have to offer you besides some middle-class fantasy of making it through hard work? He actually used air quotes. We've given you the world. The best schools, the best opportunities, the best connections. And you want to throw it all away for someone who takes the T to work? Something in me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Like the first fracture in a dam before the whole thing comes crashing down. I stood up, carefully folding my napkin and placing it on my plate. Thank you for dinner, Mrs. Winthrop. It was illuminating. Jack, Penelope started. It's fine, I said, And the scary thing was, my voice was perfectly calm. Really, I understand now. I looked at Penelope, at her perfect face and her perfect pearls and her perfect life that I'd been stupid enough to think I could be part of. I should go. I walked out of that house with my head high, took the T back to my studio apartment in Cambridge, and proceeded to have what I can only describe as a full-scale existential crisis. Chapter 2. The Challenge Code. Here's something they don't tell you about humiliation. It's an excellent motivator. For about 3 days after the dinner from hell, I wallowed. I screened Penelope's calls. I ate an irresponsible amount of pad thai. I even considered growing a spite beard, but my facial hair genetics were not cooperating. Then, on day 4, something shifted. I was lying on my couch, staring at the ceiling of my glorified shoebox apartment, when my phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Someone I'd gone to MIT with had just been acquired by Google for 8 figures. 8 figures. And he'd been in the bottom half of our class. I sat up so fast I nearly gave myself whiplash. See, here's the thing about being a coding genius. And yes, I can say that without humility because it's objectively true. I graduated top of my class and had job offers from every major tech company. I'd taken the safe route, the comfortable route. A steady paycheck at an established company, because that's what you do when you grow up watching your dad work 70-hour weeks just to keep the lights on. You don't take risks. You don't gamble. But sitting there, with the phantom taste of Winthrop family juice still bitter in my mouth, I realized something. Playing it safe had gotten me exactly nowhere. I was still the kid from Southie who wasn't good enough. Who didn't have the right last name or the right breeding or the right whatever the hell else Preston Winthrop Jr. thought mattered. I opened my laptop. 3 years earlier, during a particularly boring code review at work, I'd started playing around with an idea, a platform that used machine learning to optimize code in real time, making software development faster, cleaner, and more efficient. I'd showed it to a few people, gotten some interest, but ultimately shelved it because it seemed too risky, too ambitious, too likely to fail. Screw that. I opened the old files, stared at the code I'd written, and smiled. All right, I said to my empty apartment. Let's see what a guy with no breeding can build. I gave my 2 weeks' notice the next day. My manager thought I was insane. My coworkers threw me a pity party, disguised as a farewell happy hour. My dad called and very carefully didn't ask if I was having a thoughtful breakdown, which meant he definitely thought I was having a thoughtful breakdown. Penelope showed up at my apartment on day 6. I almost didn't let her in, but curiosity won out along with the fact that I was still pathetically in love with her despite everything. "You've been ignoring my calls," she said, walking past me into my apartment. She was wearing jeans and a knit sweatshirt. My sweatshirt. Actually, the one she'd taken months ago. It felt like a declaration of something, though I wasn't sure what. "I've been busy, Jack." She turned to face me, and I was noticed by how tired she looked. I'm so sorry. What they said was unforgivable. But not surprising? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. She flinched. I thought I could make them understand who you are, what you mean to me. And what's the verdict? Did I measure up? "This isn't fair." "You're right," I said. "It's not. None of this is fair. You know what's really unfair, Pen? I did everything right. I studied my ass off. I got the scholarship. I got the degree. I got the good job. And I still wasn't good enough because my last name is Sullivan instead of Cabot or Lodge or Winthrop. I don't care about that, but they do." I ran a hand through my hair, suddenly exhausted. "And eventually you will too. Maybe not today. Maybe not next year, but someday you'll wake up and realize that you've spent your life slumming it with the mechanic's son. And you'll wonder what your life could have been if you'd married someone from your mother's approved suitor list." "That's not true," her voice cracked. "Jack, I love you." And there it was, the first time either of us had said it. I closed my eyes. I quit my job. What? I'm starting my own company. It's going to be huge or it's going to fail spectacularly. And either way, I can't do this with you right now. I can't be engaged to a Winthrop while I'm trying to prove I'm more than where I came from. "So what, you're breaking up with me because my family are snobs?" "I'm breaking up with you because I need to do this for me. Not to prove something to them. Not even to prove something to you. For me." Penelope stared at me for a long moment, and I watched about 17 different emotions cross her face. Finally. She pulled off her engagement ring, a modest thing by Winthrop standards, but it had still taken me 3 months' salary, and set it on my coffee table. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I think you're going to do amazing things, and I think my family are idiots for not seeing what I see." Then she left, and I spent the next hour staring at that ring before I finally put it in a drawer and got back to work. Chapter 3. The grind. If you've never tried to bootstrap a startup while living in one of the most expensive cities in America, with rapidly dwindling savings, let me paint you a picture. It's hell. It's beautiful, exciting, terrifying hell. I moved out of Cambridge, couldn't afford it anymore, and found a place in Malden. And when I say place, I mean a studio apartment above a Korean barbecue restaurant that made my old place look like the Taj Mahal. But it was cheap, and the restaurant owner, Mrs. Kim, had a soft spot for skinny boy working too hard, and would occasionally take pity on me with free banchan. I called my startup CodeFlow. On the nose? Maybe, but it did what it said on the tin. The first 3 months were harsh. I was coding 18 hours a day, living on coffee and whatever food I could justify as a business expense. Spoiler alert, everything became a business expense. I built the MVP, minimum viable product for CodeFlow, using every trick, shortcut, and hack I'd learned at MIT and TechFlow. The idea was simple but powerful. Machine learning algorithms that could analyze code in real time, suggest optimizations, catch bugs before they became problems, and generally make developers' lives easier. In a world where software was eating everything, the ability to write better code faster was worth its weight in gold. Or so I hoped. Month 4, I started pitching to investors. If you thought the Winthrop dinner was humiliating, try pitching your startup to venture capitalists. It's like being repeatedly punched in the face by people in Patagonia vests, who all seem to have gone to Stanford together. The market's too crowded. Your credentials are impressive, but you don't have industry connections. Come back when you have more traction. We only invest in founders with previous exits. It was a catch-22 worthy of Kafka. I needed money to get traction, but I needed traction to get money. I was about to give up, seriously considering crawling back to TechFlow with my tail between my legs, when I got an email from someone named Charlie Chen. The email was short. "Saw your pitch deck. Let's talk." Charlie turned out to be a first-generation Chinese-American entrepreneur who'd made a fortune in cybersecurity and now ran a small selective seed fund. We met at a coffee shop in Somerville, and I braced myself for another rejection. "You went to MIT, Charlie said, not as a question. "Yes." "Scholarship kid?" I bristled. "Yes. Me too. BU, class of '98. He grinned. "Full ride because my parents owned a dry cleaning business, and there was no way in hell they could afford tuition." I blinked. "Oh. The VCs you've been talking to, they don't get it. They're investing in founders who remind them of themselves, which means people who've already had every advantage." He pulled out his laptop. "Walk me through the tech." I did. For the next 2 hours, we went deep into the weeds of machine learning models, code optimization algorithms, and market opportunities. Charlie asked smart questions. Really smart questions. The kind that made me realize he actually understood what I was building. "Here's the thing," he said finally. "Your tech is solid, really solid, but you're thinking too small." "What do you mean?" "You're positioning this as a developer tool, but what you've actually built is a platform that could revolutionize how enterprise software is developed. You're not selling to individual developers. You're selling to CTOs at Fortune 500 companies who are determined to mark development costs and time to market." I stared at him. "That's actually brilliant." "I know." He smiled. "I'm going to give you $500K seed funding. In exchange, I want 15% equity and a seat on your board." My brain short-circuited. What? "Don't answer now. Think about it. Talk to a lawyer." "Actually, don't. You can't afford a good one yet. I'll have my lawyer send over term sheets. You can have them reviewed." "But Jack," he stood up, extending his hand, "don't let anyone tell you that where you come from determines where you're going. I've built 3 successful companies. You know how many investors told me I didn't have the right background, the right network, the right pedigree? How many? All of them." His grip was firm. "Prove them wrong." Chapter 4, The Pivot. With Charlie's funding, everything changed. First order of business, I hired people. Not a lot, I couldn't afford a lot. but I brought on 2 brilliant engineers from my MIT network, who were as tired of corporate bullshit as I'd been. Maya, a machine learning expert who'd been wasting away at a hedge fund, and David, a full-stack developer who'd been at Google and was dying of boredom. We're going to be broke and overworked, I told them honestly during their interviews. So, like MIT but we get equity? Maya said. Exactly like MIT, but with equity. I'm in. Second order of business. Following Charlie's advice, I completely repositioned CodeFlow. Instead of marketing to individual developers, we targeted enterprise clients. We built case studies showing how our platform could reduce development time by 40% and mark bug rates by 60%. We made it about the money, because that's what enterprise cares about. Third order of business. I learned how to sell. This was harder than coding. Way harder. Coding has rules, logic, elegant solutions to concrete problems. Sales is jazz. Improvisation, reading the room, knowing when to push and when to back off. Charlie mentored me through it. He sat in on my first dozen pitches, then made me watch the recordings and pointed out every time I'd undermine myself with weak language or apologetic form language. Stop saying maybe and possibly, he'd say. You know your product works. Sell it like you know. But what if? No, what ifs are for coding. Sales is about certainty. Our first enterprise client was a mid-sized fintech company in Boston. Their CTO, a woman named Sarah Park, took a chance on us because, as she put it, your demo was the first pitch I've seen in 5 years that wasn't complete bullshit. We delivered. Not perfectly. There were bugs. There were late nights. There was a challenge tackle in a bathroom stall when I thought we'd completely screwed up their deployment. But we delivered. They saw a 35% reduction in development time in the first quarter. Sarah referred us to 2 other CTOs. Those CTOs referred us to 3 more. And suddenly, 6 months after I'd walked out of the Winthrop mansion, we had 8 clients, $2 million in revenue, and VCs who'd previously ignored my emails were suddenly very interested in talking, including one particularly smug partner at a firm called Beacon Ventures who'd rejected me with a foreign email. He invited me to his office, literally the same office where I'd pitched 6 months earlier, and opened with, "We'd like to lead your Series A." The petty part of me wanted to tell him where he could shove his Series A. The business part of me, the part that had learned from Charlie, smiled and said, "We're evaluating several offers. I'll have my team send over our materials." I didn't have a team. It was just me and a Google Sheet. But he didn't need to know that. Chapter 5, The Awkward Encounter. I was working late at our new office, a real office, not my apartment, though calling it an office was generous. It was basically a renovated warehouse space in the seaport that we shared with a design agency and a company that made artisanal pickles, when Maya poked her head into my corner. "Hey, there's someone here to see you. If it's another VC who just happened to be in the neighborhood, tell them I'm in a meeting." "It's not a VC." Maya had a weird expression on her face. Well, you should just come out." I followed her to the reception area, which was really just some nice IKEA furniture and a plant I kept forgetting to water. Penelope was standing there. My heart did something complicated and painful, like it was trying to solve a proof it didn't have the variables for. "Hi," she said. "Hi." We stared at each other for a moment. She looked different. Older? No, not older. More something. Her hair was shorter, falling just to her shoulders. She was wearing a blazer and jeans, which was a far thoughtful from her usual Winthrop-approved wardrobe. "Maya, David, can you give us a minute?" I said. They vanished with the speed of people who sensed drama and wanted to eavesdrop from a respectful distance. "How did you find me?" I asked. TechCrunch article. CodeFlow raises $8 million Series A. Congratulations. Thanks. I shoved my hands in my pockets because I didn't trust them not to do something stupid like reach for her. "What are you doing here, Pen?" "I wanted to see you, to tell you." She took a breath. "I'm proud of you, what you've built. It's incredible." "Okay." I waited for the other shoe to drop. This was Boston. There was always another shoe. And I wanted you to know that I left. Left what? The family business. My trust fund. All of it. She said it matter-of-factly, but I could hear the weight behind the words. I told my parents that they could keep their money and their expectations. I got my own apartment. A real apartment that I pay for with my own money. And I got a job at a nonprofit working on education equity. I blinked. You what? That dinner, what they said to you. It made me realize that I'd spent my whole life being exactly who they wanted me to be. Going to the right schools, joining the right clubs, dating the right people. She met my eyes. And I hated it. I hated who I was when I was with them. But I loved who I was when I was with you. Penelope. I'm not here to ask you to take me back, she said quickly. I know I challenged you. I know I let them challenge you. And I know you're in the middle of building something amazing, and you don't need the distraction or the complication. Then why are you here? Because I needed you to know that you were right. About everything. And because, she smiled, thoughtful and genuine. I wanted to see if that guy I fell in love with, the one who was brilliant and funny and kind, if he was still in there somewhere, under all the success. I leaned against the reception desk, processing. Your family must have lost their minds. Oh, they've completely disowned me. Very dramatic. Lots of, you're throwing your life away. And, you'll come crawling back. My brother started a betting pool on how long I'd last. How long does he give you? 3 months. But joke's on him because I'm at 5 months and counting. She shifted her weight. Anyway, I should go. I really did just want to see you. And to say that I'm sorry. For not standing up to them sooner. For not being brave enough when it mattered. She turned to leave and I heard myself say, wait. She stopped. I'm still in here. The guy you fell in love with. He's just got better funding now. She laughed, and the sound pressed me right in the chest. Do you want to get coffee? I asked. I mean, not now, it's 9 p.m. But, sometime. I'd like that. Just coffee, as friends. Because you're right, I am building something, and I need to stay focused. Just coffee, she agreed. She laughed, and I went back to my office where Maya and David were very obviously not eavesdropping behind their monitors. Not a word, I said. Wouldn't dream of it, Maya said. But for the record, she's pretty. And she clearly still has feelings for you, David added. I said not a word. That's 2 words technically, so we're already over the limit. I threw a challenge ball at David's head. Chapter 6, The Rise. The Series A funding changed everything. Again. We moved into a real office, glass walls, standing desks, a coffee machine that cost more than my first car. Okay, I'd never owned a car, but you get the point. We hired more people. We signed bigger clients. We started getting attention from the tech press. Boston's CodeFlow takes aim at Silicon Valley with revolutionary platform, TechCrunch declared. Meet Jack Sullivan, the MIT grad disrupting software development, Forbes announced. My favorite, though, was from a Boston Business Journal profile. Local entrepreneur proves that pedigree isn't everything. That one, I printed out and put on my wall. Charlie called me after the Forbes piece. Don't let it go to your head. Too late. I'm getting business cards printed with as featured in Forbes under my name. Jack, I'm kidding. Mostly. The press is good. The growth is good, but remember why you started this. His voice was serious. You didn't do it to prove something to Penelope's family. You didn't do it for the money or the attention. I did it because I was focused and petty and wanted to shove my success in their faces. You did it because you had something to prove to yourself. Don't lose sight of that. He was right, of course. The thing about success is that it's intoxicating. Suddenly, I was getting invited to conferences, networking events, parties in Beacon Hill where people who wouldn't have given me the time of day a year ago were very interested in my thoughts on artificial intelligence and the future of software development. It was validating and hollow at the same time. I kept having coffee with Penelope. Once a week, we'd meet at this place in the North End and just talk. About work, mostly. About her kids at the non-profit. She loved them, even the difficult ones. Maybe especially the difficult ones. About my company. She asked smart questions about scaling and team culture. About everything except what we were actually doing. This is weird, right? She said one day, about 3 months into our coffee routine. What is this, us having coffee, like civilized adults when we both know? She trailed off. Know what? Come on, Jack. She looked at me over her coffee cup, and there was something in her eyes that made my pulse jump. You're not over me. I'm not over you. We're just doing this elaborate dance where we pretend we're friends because you're focused on your company, and I'm focused on proving I can make it on my own. That's accurate. So what do we do about it? I thought about it. About Charlie's warning, not to lose sight of why I'd started. About the fact that CodeFlow was at a critical stage. We were negotiating partnerships with 2 Fortune 100 companies, planning our expansion to New York, talking about a potential Series B. I don't know, I admitted. When you figure it out, let me know. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm not going anywhere. The problem was, I didn't know if I could do both, build the company and build a relationship. I'd seen what happened to founders who got distracted, who took their eye off the ball. I'd watched companies implode because the CEO was going through a divorce or got too comfortable or stopped being hungry. And I was still hungry. For success, for validation, for proof that I'd made the right choice walking away from safety. But I was also lonely. The thing they don't tell you about entrepreneurship is how isolating it is. You're surrounded by people, your team, your investors, your clients, but you're fundamentally alone. Every major decision lands on you. Every risk is yours to take. Everyone's job, livelihood, and future depends on you not screwing up. It's heavy, and Penelope was the only person who seemed to see through all of it. The success, the press, the growth metrics, to the guy underneath, who was still, on some level, a scholarship kid from Southie trying to prove he belonged. Chapter 7. The Confrontation. I ran into Preston Winthrop Jr. at a tech conference in Boston. Well, ran into is generous. He sought me out. I was on a panel discussing the future of AI in software development, which still felt surreal, being on stage as an expert rather than in the audience taking notes, when I saw him in the crowd. Expensive suit, arms crossed, expression that suggested he'd rather be literally anywhere else. After the panel, he cornered me at the reception. Mr. Sullivan. I turned, and I'd like to say I was cool and collected, but my first instinct was confrontation or flight. Mostly flight. Mr. Winthrop. That was an interesting presentation. He said interesting, the way one might say mediocre or painfully average. Thank you. I've been following your company's progress. Impressive, for such a short time frame. Here it comes, I thought. The condescension, the dismissal, the subtle reminder that I'm still the mechanic's son, playing in a world I don't belong in. CodeFlow is doing well, I said neutrally. Indeed. He sipped his champagne. I suppose I should congratulate you. You've proven that you're not completely without merit. Every muscle in my form tensed. Is there something specific you wanted to say, sir? My daughter tells me you've been spending time together. Ah, there it was. We have coffee sometimes, as friends. Friends. He studied me like I was a particularly interesting specimen under a microscope. Let me be frank with you, Sullivan. When you left that dinner, I thought you were doing the right thing, the smart thing. You clearly didn't belong in our world, and it was better for everyone, especially Penelope, if you recognize that. But, I could hear the but coming. But then you built something, made something of yourself, more than I expected, I'll admit. He paused. Penelope has also made choices. Mark herself off from the family. Rejected everything we've offered her. She seems determined to prove some point about independence and self-sufficiency. Sounds like she learned from the best, I said before I could stop myself. His eyes narrowed. Careful. No, I don't think I will be careful. Something in me snapped. You humiliated me. You sat there in your mansion, at your mahogany table, drinking your imported juice, and you made it very clear that I wasn't good enough for your daughter, because of who my father is, where I grew up, what school I didn't go to. I was protecting my daughter. You were protecting your idea of what your daughter should be. But here's the thing, Mr. Winthrop. She's not yours to protect anymore. She made her own choice. She walked away from you. And maybe, just maybe, that should tell you something about how she felt being part of the Winthrop legacy. I was on a roll now. Months of challenge and challenged pouring out. And you know what the really funny part is? I don't need your approval anymore. I spent months trying to prove I was worthy of being in your world, but I built my own instead. One where what matters is what you create, not who your great-great-grandfather was. Preston Winthrop Jr. stared at me for a long moment. His face was unreadable. Decades of Boston Brahmin breeding had taught him to school his expressions. Then, shockingly, he smiled. Just a little. You've got spine, Sullivan. I'll give you that. He set down his champagne flute. I've spent the past 6 months watching my daughter become someone I barely recognize. She's happy. Genuinely happy. Perhaps for the first time in her life. And I've spent that time being focused about it. I waited. But then I see you up there on that stage, talking about technology and innovation like you were born to it, and I realize something. Maybe the world my family built isn't the only one that matters anymore. He straightened his tie. I still don't like you. You're brash and young, and you haven't earned your place through the traditional channels. Shocking. But Penelope loves you. Loved you enough to walk away from everything she'd ever known. And that means something. I didn't know what to say to that. Don't challenge her again, he said quietly. Whatever issues we have, she's still my daughter. I'm not planning to challenge her. Plans and outcomes rarely align, Mr. Sullivan. But I suppose that's life. He nodded curtly. Good luck with your company. Then he left and I stood there wondering what the hell had just happened. Chapter 8. The Choice. I called an all-hands meeting the next day. CodeFlow had grown to 35 people. Developers, sales, marketing, customer success. Real departments with real org charts. Maya was our CTO. David had moved into a product role. We'd hired a CFO, a head of sales, even an HR person who kept trying to make me do things like team-building exercises and performance reviews. I looked at these people, brilliant, talented people who'd believed in my vision and felt the weight of responsibility settle over me. I've been thinking about what's next, I started. We've grown fast, really fast, and we have opportunities to grow even faster. We could raise a Series B, expand internationally, double the team. Excited murmurs. But I've been asking myself, is that what we want? More importantly, is that what I want? Confused silence. Maya caught on first. You're thinking about selling. I'm thinking about what success means, I corrected. I started CodeFlow to prove something. To myself mostly, but also to everyone who ever told me I wasn't good enough. And we've done that. We've built something incredible. So why sell? David asked. Because I realized that I've been so focused on building the company that I've forgotten to build a life. I ran a hand through my hair. There's someone I care about. Someone I challenged because I was more concerned with proving a point than being honest about what I wanted. The coffee girl, Maya said smiling. She has a name. We know. We've been placing bets on when you'd finally make a move. Of course you have. I shook my head. Look, I'm not making any decisions without talking to all of you. You took a risk joining CodeFlow. You deserve to be part of this conversation. But I wanted you to know where my head is at. We spent the next 2 hours debating options. Some people wanted to keep building. They loved the startup energy, the sense of mission. Others were intrigued by the idea of an acquisition, especially if it came with retention bonuses and the ability to work on cool problems at a larger company. Finally, our CFO, a pragmatic woman named Laura, who'd worked at 3 successful startups, said, Jack, what do you want? Not what's best for the company, not what the investors want. What do you want? I thought about it, really thought about it. I want to build something that lasts, I said slowly. But I also want a life outside of this office. I want to sleep more than 5 hours a night. I want to go on vacation and not check Slack every 10 minutes. I paused. I want to take a chance on something that scares me more than any pitch meeting or product launch. Maya grinned. Go get her, boss. Chapter 9. The Grand Gesture. Sort of. Here's the thing about grand gestures. They're really hard to pull off without looking like an idiot. I know this because I spent 3 days trying to figure out the perfect way to tell Penelope how I felt, and every idea was progressively more ridiculous. Skywriting? Too expensive and weather-dependent. Flash mob? I don't know 30 people who can dance, and also it's not 2012. Showing up at her apartment with a boombox? She lives in a building with a doorman, and also, I don't own a boombox. In the end, I went with the simple approach. I called her. Hey, she answered. It's not Friday. Is everything okay? Our coffee meetings had become a Friday ritual. Can you meet me at MIT? I asked. Right now? Right now. Jack, it's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm in my pajamas eating leftover Thai food. Please. She sighed, this better be good. An hour later, we were standing outside Building 10, the main entrance to MIT's campus. It was where we'd first met, actually. I'd been at a graduate student mixer, and she'd been there with friends from Wellesley. I'd spilled soda on her shoes, and she'd laughed instead of being frustrated about it. "Why are we here?" she asked. "Do you remember the first time we met? You ruined my Louboutins. They were already wet from the rain." "Jack," she was smiling. "Why are we here?" I took a breath. "Do you know why I started CodeFlow? To build something innovative? To revolutionize software development? To make millions of dollars? To prove your father wrong." She blinked. "What?" "That dinner. The way he looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. The way your mother couldn't even pretend to be interested in my existence. Your brother's smug face." I was pacing now. I went home that night and I was so focused, so humiliated, and I decided I was going to show all of them that I was worth something. You didn't need to prove that. I know that now, but at the time I needed it. I needed to build something and succeed and make money and get my face in Forbes so I could imagine your father seeing it and realizing he was wrong about me. Penelope was quiet. "And I did it. I built the company. We're profitable, growing. I could sell it tomorrow for enough money that I'd never have to work again. I proved everything I set out to prove." "Okay, but here's what I realized. I don't care." I stopped pacing and looked at her. "I don't care if your father thinks I'm worthy. I don't care about being in the same social circles as the Winthrops. I don't care about any of it." "Then what do you care about?" "You." I stepped closer. "I care about you. About the fact that you make me laugh. About the way you actually listen when I talk about coding, instead of just nodding politely. About how you walked away from everything you'd ever known because it didn't make you happy. Jack, I broke up with you because I thought I needed to focus on building the company. Because I was afraid that if I tried to do both, build CodeFlow and build a relationship, I'd fail at both. But I was wrong. I've spent the last year succeeding by every external measure, and I've been miserable. You seem pretty happy in that TechCrunch article. I'm a good actor." I reached for her hand. "Penelope Winthrop, I am still completely stupidly in love with you. And I don't want to just have coffee on Fridays. I want to actually date you. I want to introduce you as my girlfriend, not my friend. I want to build a life with you, not just a company." She was thoughtful. "You idiot. Is that a yes? You let me walk away. You broke up with me because you needed to prove something to yourself, and I understood that. But it challenged. It really challenged. I know. I'm sorry. And now you show up here, at MIT of all places, and give me this speech about how you've realized you want a life outside of work. I'm really bad at this, aren't I? The worst." But she was smiling through her emotion. "But also, yes. Yes, I want to date you. Yes, I still love you. Yes to all of it." I kissed her, right there in front of Building 10, under the same dome where we'd met 3 years earlier. It was perfect. Well, perfect except for the group of undergrads who walked by, and one of them yelled, "Get a room." "We're having a moment," I called back. "Have it somewhere else." Penelope laughed against my lips. "Want to get out of here?" "Absolutely." Epilogue. 6 months later, I sold CodeFlow to Microsoft for $150 million. It made headlines. Boston startup CodeFlow acquired by Microsoft in major deal. And my phone exploded with congratulatory messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. But the best part wasn't the money, or the press, or the validation. The best part was calling my dad. "Hey Pop. Jack, I saw the news. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, that's a lot of money." "It is. I'm proud of you, son." His voice was gruff with emotion. "Your mother would have been proud too." "Thanks, Dad." I swallowed hard. Mom had died when I was in college. Cancer. Fast and merciless, and she'd never gotten to see any of this. "Hey, I have a question for you." "Focus. How would you feel about retiring? I could buy out the shop. Set you up so you never have to work again." Silence. "Dad? I appreciate that, Jack. I really do, but I like working."
"Like getting my hands dirty, fixing things." He paused. "Tell you what, though. I could use some new equipment. Maybe hire another mechanic so I'm not doing 70-hour weeks. Done. And maybe take a vacation. Haven't been on one since '03. Where do you want to go?" "Ireland. See where my grandfather came from. I'll book it. After we hung up, I found Penelope in our apartment. Our apartment, the one we'd moved into together 2 months ago in the North End, with a view of the harbor and enough space that we didn't end each other. She was at the kitchen table, grading papers from her kids. "All done?" she asked. "All done." I sat down across from her. "So, I was thinking, dangerous. Your family's having that thing next weekend, the garden party." She looked up. "You don't have to go. I know how you feel about my parents. Actually, I want to go." "You want to go to a Winthrop family garden party? Voluntarily?" "I want to see the look on your brother's face when I show up as the guy who just sold his company for 9 figures. I grinned. "Petty? Yes. Satisfying. Also yes." Penelope laughed. "You're terrible. You love it." "I do." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I really do." The garden party was exactly as insufferable as I remembered. Lots of people in linen and seersucker, discussing their summer homes and their children's admissions to elite preschools. But this time, I didn't care. Preston III cornered me by the bar. "Sullivan, heard about your exit. Congratulations." "Thanks. Microsoft, huh? Smart move." He sounded like it physically pained him to say it. I thought so. "So what's next? Another startup? VC fund?" "Actually, I'm taking some time off. Going to travel with Penelope. Maybe write some code, just for fun." I sipped my drink. Figure out what I want to do when I grow up. He looked baffled, like I'd just spoken in ancient Sumerian. "You're taking time off? After a successful exit? That's when you're supposed to double down, start the next thing." "Maybe," I shrugged. "Or maybe I've learned that there's more to life than the next deal." Preston and Victoria found me later. We stood in an awkward triangle. 3 people who'd never be friends but had reached some kind of détente. "Jack," Preston said stiffly, "we wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For making our daughter happy," Victoria said. She glanced at Penelope, who was across the lawn laughing with her cousin. "She's herself again. The way she used to be, before we tried to mold her into something she wasn't." I didn't know what to say to that. "We were wrong," Preston continued. "About you. About what matters. We thought breeding and connections were everything. But you've proven that intelligence and drive and character matter more. And love," Victoria added quietly. "Penelope loves you. That's not something we can arrange or approve of or control. It just is." "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." It did, surprisingly. Not because I needed their approval. I'd meant what I said to Penelope, about not caring what they thought, but because it made things easier for her. As the party wound down, Penelope and I walked along the garden paths, her hand in mine. "That wasn't so bad," she said. "It was pretty bad, but survivable. My family likes you now. Or at least, they're pretending to. I'll take it." I stopped walking and turned to face her. "Hey, Pen. Yeah? Want to get married?" She stared at me. "Did you just propose in my parents' garden?" "I did. Is that okay?" "Do you have a ring?" "Not on me. But I have the one from before, in my sock drawer. We could use that, or get a new one. Whatever you want." "You're proposing without a ring, in my parents' garden, at a party. I'm bad at romance. We've established this." Penelope laughed, the kind of full-form laugh that made her eyes crinkle. "Yes." "Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Again. Or still. Whatever this is." She kissed me. "But we're getting a new ring. One that doesn't have all the baggage of the last engagement." Deal. We got married 6 months later, in a small ceremony at the seaport. My dad walked me down the aisle, which made me thoughtful like a baby. Charlie was my best man. Maya and David came, along with half the original CodeFlow team. The Winthrops came too. All of them. Even Preston III, who got tired and told me I was all right for a scholarship kid, which I chose to take as a compliment. For our honeymoon, we went to Ireland with my dad. Penelope had insisted he come, and the 3 of us spent 2 weeks driving around, visiting tiny villages, drinking in pubs, and tracing the Sullivan family tree. On our last night, sitting in a pub in County Cork, my dad raised his Guinness. "To taking chances," he said. "To proving people wrong," I added. "To finding your way home," Penelope finished. We clinked glasses. And I thought about the path that had led me here, from a scholarship kid who didn't belong to a founder building something from nothing,
to a husband sitting in an Irish pub with the two people I loved most. It wasn't a straight line. There were humiliations and setbacks and moments when I'd wanted to give up. But I wouldn't change any of it. Because the best code, like the best life, isn't about elegant solutions or optimal paths. It's about debugging as you go, pivoting when necessary, and having the courage to commit to the things that matter, even when the outcome is uncertain. And sometimes, just sometimes, you get a happy ending. Or maybe just a new beginning. Either way, I'd take it. The end. Add to conversation.
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.